Hello guys, it's Revolution. In this video we're going to discuss why Ultimate Gohan and Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks did not fight Kid Buu on the supreme world of the Kais come the end of the Buu saga. As we know, Goku, when claiming he could beat Kid Buu at full power, he failed to do so due to now being in a mortal body, meaning that he couldn't get to the full power that he knew of before failing to do so. This was the catalyst for Vegeta to use the Namekian Dragon Balls to wish for Earth to be revived, including all of its inhabitants, in order to give Goku the power to use the Genki Dharma against Kid Buu and eradicate Kid Buu once and for all. Now, many people over the years have asked, why didn't they just bring Ultimate Gohan and Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks to the battlefield? After all, both of them clearly defeated Super Buu. And just to make it crystal clear, I am referring to the events that occurred in the manga of Dragon Ball Z, the main source material for Dragon Ball, written by the author Akira Toriyama himself. If you enjoy the anime, you prefer the anime, that's fine, that's great, but ultimately there is nothing more canon than the Dragon Ball manga. Quite simply put, it's from the pen of the author himself. And in the manga, it is highly suggested, you will have a very strong case for saying that Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks is stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and of course Ultimate Gohan is even stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. I did cover this in multiple videos. One of those videos was what if Ultimate Gohan fought Kid Buu, and another video where I actually compare Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks and Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I go very in depth in those videos concerning the Dragon Ball manga and why, who wins against who. Make sure you check those videos out. I'll leave links to them at the end of this video. Very worth watching. And of course, it would be good to know your opinion, your perspective down in the comments section once you've seen those videos. But this video is mainly going to focus on why they didn't join the fight. Obviously, a lot of people believe that Gohan and Gotenks didn't join the fight because they weren't deemed strong enough to fight against Kid Buu. But that's not really the real reason why they didn't join the battlefield. There's other proponents deeply instilled in the Dragon Ball lore itself on why that them being brought to the battlefield probably wouldn't have worked anyway. And it's not necessarily to do with their actual power levels. So we can go straight to the battlefield of the Supreme World of the Kais, Vegeta and Goku against Kid Buu, to find one major factor on why Gohan and Gotenks weren't brought to the battlefield. It is a valid reason in itself. Now, we know that when Vegeta revived Earth and all its inhabitants, Gohan, Goten, Trunks and Piccolo were all revived. Of course, it revives you from the point when you was in the state you was last in, and the state they were last in was unconscious. As we saw with Frieza and Resurrection of F, when brought back by Shenron, he was brought back in pieces and had to be regenerated and rehabilitated. Well, on the Supreme World of the Kais, Vegeta had a halo to begin with, and then obviously he was revived by Porunga, the Namekian dragon. Vegeta's halo disappeared. His wounds even disappeared after taking an absolute pasting from Kid Buu in his Super Saiyan 2 form whilst Goku was attempting to rev up his full power in order to take down Kid Buu. His wounds disappeared, but his energy restored. Whilst Goku's collecting energy from all the people who are lending their energy, he receives energy from Gohan, Trunks, Goten, Piccolo, and the rest of the Z Warriors and their friends and family. They simply are not getting enough Genki in order to take Buu down. Vegeta realises this, Goku realises this, and they need to buy more time, and Fat Buu at this point, Mr. Buu, is basically getting ragdolled by Kid Buu, so Vegeta needs to intervene. However, Vegeta doesn't have the energy to transform into a Super Saiyan 2, he basically fights Kid Buu in his base. And to clarify and make it absolutely crystal clear, Goku confirms that Vegeta hasn't had his power restored, nor received any kind of huge Zenkai boost after being healed, by stating that you're still weak from before, referring to the time where he fought Kid Buu as a Super Saiyan 2 and got mollywopped. So simply put, Gohan, Piccolo, Trunks and Goten simply wouldn't have been revived at full power. So ultimately, they would have been restored in the state they were before they died, which was pretty much unconscious. They would have not have been able to take on Kid Buu. They would have been just as weak, if not weaker, than base Vegeta fighting Kid Buu at that point. Now, I know what you're thinking. The 3 wishes from Porunga, one was used to restore the Earth, the second one was used to resurrect all the people of Earth. Why didn't they use the third wish to basically bring Gohan and Trunks and Goten back to full power, as well as Goku and Vegeta? Well, Vegeta didn't make the third wish first of all, so it wasn't his idea. He may have not known it was possible, but Dende eventually made the wish, and it was to restore Goku's power whilst using the Genki Dharma. He only come up with this idea whilst Goku was struggling to unleash the Genki Dharma in his weakened base state. Now, don't get me wrong, I do think it's a bit odd that Porunga can restore the entire Earth and all of its people and not manage to restore Goku to full power, but Porunga even admits himself that he cannot restore Goku to full power. I am paraphrasing, he says that he can only restore Goku to a normal state, likely referring that he cannot restore Goku to full power, so I'm imagining that is Super Saiyan 3 Goku. So given in the manga that it's highly implied that Ultimate Gohan and Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks are even stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku, they wouldn't have had their power restored to their maximum anyway, even if they were to be restored. The only other option to restore them to that kind of power was Dende, and Dende was away with the Supreme Kai, who no longer had enough energy left to transport. Did Vegeta and Goku know all this? Of course not. So you can argue, well, they should have came up with the idea. But Goku never said it was a bad idea when he brought up that they are going to bring Gohan and Gotenks to the battlefield. Obviously, Vegeta was thinking a few steps ahead of Goku, and probably recognised that he himself wasn't restored to full power. But in terms of healing, Porunga only seems to be able to heal one person at a time, and only to a certain amount of power, especially if they are strong beings like Goku. Of course, others would point to the fact that Gohan, Trunks and Goten and Piccolo all contributed to the Genki Dharma, and of course their power alone wasn't enough. They needed all the collective power of the earth, as well as others from the underworld and the gods, to basically put Buu down. But it's called the Genki Dharma for a reason. Obviously, as we've just discussed, Gohan wasn't at full power anyway. Neither was Trunks or Goten fused into Gotenks, nor did they even attempt to fuse into Gotenks, because Genki isn't the only part of your power. There are multiple different components that make up the full pie of your power. In an interview in the Super Exciting Guide, Toriyama revealed that there are at least 3 components that make up your ki. When Toriyama was asked with what is the key to winning in battle, he stated, "In battle, the most important thing is the size of your ki and your control over it. Ki is a concept, of course, includes spiritual powers as energy Genki, courage Yuki, and right-mindedness Shoki. No matter how much you train, there are limits to physical strength, and the only way of overcoming that is through ki." So guys, the Genki Dharma only draws upon one part of ki, which is Genki, hence the name Genki Dharma. The fact that Gohan's Genki wasn't enough for the Genki Dharma to defeat Kid Buu doesn't necessarily mean he was weaker than Buu, just that the amount of Genki that he had to dispose of at that point and lend to the Genki Dharma was below that of Buu's total ki. So guys, that's not really taking into consideration the amount of Yuki or Shoki or any other kinds of ki that Gohan would have that he could use in regular battle at full power. And don't forget, we've already discussed the fact that he would have been severely weakened upon being revived. And the same can be applied for Gotenks. Of course, when lending Genki to the Genki Dharma, Trunks and Goten didn't even fuse. Whether they had enough power to fuse remains to be seen, but ultimately, they just lend energy in their base. They didn't turn Super Saiyan or anything like that. So even raising ki via a transformation doesn't necessarily mean you can lend more Genki. If the Genki Dharma was purely about the power of the Lendies, then obviously Goten and Trunks would have fused, turned into a Super Saiyan 3 and gave as much energy as possible. Of course, they didn't, so that's why it doesn't necessarily represent Gotenks and Gohan's power at their strongest. And I know people are going to say, well, it looks like Gohan's still in his ultimate form, but back then, and even in the manga still now, Gohan's ultimate mythic form is more like a base form than a transformation. I know the anime portrays it as a transformation, but that's the anime for you and Toei for you. But in the manga, it's pretty much put forward as Gohan in his base form. You never really see him transform into a Super Saiyan anymore, apart from in Resurrection of F, of course, where he hadn't been training. Now he's training again. When you see him at full power, he's in his base form. And don't worry, guys, I missed the bang too. Now, obviously, I've used official source material, including the main source material, Toriyama interviews, and just logic to tell you why these two did not join the battle, and it wasn't necessarily to do with them fighting at full power. But here's another reason for you to consider. Now, this could be described as headcanon, I totally accept that, but it's more me just putting out an idea and wanting to know what you guys think. Gotenks and Gohan both failed against Buu. That is just the truth. It wasn't down to their power, it was down to their lack of warrior intellect, etc. They both got absorbed and they both made Buu stronger. Even if they'd have got brought to the battlefield on the Supreme World of the Kais, even if they were at full power, when Kid Buu or any kind of Buu is pushed into a corner, they absorb someone. So by pushing Buu into a corner and having a character who doesn't get the job done quickly enough like Gotenks or Ultimate Gohan, Buu would look to absorb someone, either Goku, Vegeta, who are severely weakened at that point and vulnerable, and obviously even Gotenks or Gohan, because it's happened to them before when they dropped their guards. In the what if scenario, if they were all on that battlefield at the same time, if Kid Buu even managed to absorb one of them at that point, it would have been game over. Tara Fusion was out the window. Gohan and Vegeta don't know how to do Metal Round Fusion. Gohan and Gotenks may have a greater ki than Kid Buu, but they are ultimately liabilities on the battlefield, so that may have contributed to Vegeta's thinking when considering Gotenks and Gohan. And of course, he was proved right that Goku would get the job done with the Genki Dama, as he did do. He obviously finished Kid Buu off. And of course, even in the event that it failed, they would have had a plan B with Gohan and Gotenks being back on Earth, getting prepared for what's to come. Anyway guys, I think I've given some really good reasons why Gohan and Gotenks didn't join the fight, and whilst they may have had more power than Kid Buu and potentially could have defeated him one-on-one, at that particular point in time it just wasn't a feasible idea to bring them to the battlefield given their conditions. Drop your thoughts down in the comment section and let me know what you think, anything you think I may have missed or anything you would like to add. Make your opinions heard. Do subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed these Dragon Ball discussions. Got plenty coming on the way. Keep an eye out on my community tab where I do polls, and I'm going to be doing more live videos with guests. I had Welkin Konji on my channel recently. Keep smashing that like button, keep lending Daishinkin your energy. Until next time, Ad Astra.